both great options here for LGD. Kramer's been someone, though, who's really prioritized the Ezreal. I wonder if they go a safer direction and just say, hey, Kramer, we're putting you back on the safe bottom lane, farm it out as usual. Still do that with Varus, but that extra bit of protection to survive ganks. So let's see LGD's decision-making here.
I really would prefer the Sett coming out right now, because even BLG's comp can take away the Sett and pair it with another AP jungler. Instead, they are still going to just opt into the Varus, so they're going to be able to control a wide range of distance and zone, have that poke damage come out. But for BLG, you can just pop in an AP jungler here. We know WeiWei is able to play the Nidalee, throw in the Sett in the mid lane, and you have that same sort of setup that you would have otherwise had as LGD. And I feel like bot lane matchups are a lot less punishing right now than they have been for a lot of times over, you know, past splits. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely right. You know, we just get through a laning phase without what was over the MSI meta, just huge 2v2s all the time. Change around as we stop seeing as much Tristana coming through. We've stopped seeing, you know, the Xiye Rakan bottom lanes as well, I guess, to a degree. On one side, you mentioned what BLG we're going to pick up here. Nice call, Lyric. On the other side, LGD have opted in for the Viego, which is still technically a flex to either Garvey or Xiye.
Xiye has already played this once before. It was in that comeback win up against Ultra Prime, where he was able to find those good resets and pop off. So still going to have some nice AD damage coming out. They are banning away some of the AD carries that do slot well into BLG's comp. Already taken away the Ezreal. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Jhin taken out next. The other thing you could take away, I guess, is take away the Thresh, which instantly bans out a lot of the hyper carry ADs. But still, Jhin probably suits what BLG are going for a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we've seen so many times in the comp. I want to point out as well, Nidalee Renekton at as old as time is such a great lane to influence. Renekton brings the stun, you bring the gun if you're someone like the Nidalee. So as we go forward, you mentioned the Jhin. I like this a lot here, Lyric. We've already got bottom lane bans for LGD, but it is left open while BLG banning away some of the top laners as a potential. The Volley Bear as well, something that could add a bit of an engage, also a bit of dive ability.
Yeah, and a lot of top laners taken off across the board. Something like the Wukong is still left open, and that has been one of our more recent go-tos, but Garvey going to go back to an old favorite, going to bring out the Gnar. We've seen Gnar struggle quite a bit in LPL so far this split. He's only sitting at 2-7 in terms of win-loss, and I feel like there's a lot more potential and ways to get on top of him. And he also isn't that strong in early game skirmishes, which we've seen a ton around topside, unless you are able to get your Mega Form.
That's right. Put him into the wall, add the follow-up damage coming through from something like the Equalizer. Kaisa on the other side, though. Okay, we don't get any of the utility that comes from Jhin. Instead, the ability to follow up and all in with the comp that BLG have.
It still works, right? A lot of these champions can fit in this comp. They add different flavors to what it has. If you go Jhin right, I think you're a lot more you feel a lot more pressure to get ahead early on, start rotating that artillery piece around the map and get ahead that way, to where with the Kaisa, sure, maybe Kaisa doesn't scale the same way as champions like Jinx or Varus, Kog'Maw, you know, etc., but you still do bring a lot of damage in with your passive and can take down a lot of these frontliners. So going to hope to follow up on the engage onto the backline with Zeka and BiuBiu, set up for some spears, and be able to instantly burst out some of these members. LGD overall, I think, having a more, I don't want to say standard, but we can say standard comp at this point with how much Viego we are seeing and, you know, assassin-esque champions coming into the mid-game. A ton of AoE damage if they can get those fighting chokes. I think they're going to do a nice job in a lot of their laning phases, especially around that bottom lane. For topside, I wonder what Shadow will do, because you don't have a lot of setup there for the Rumble early on. And for the side of BLG, you do have more, I'd say, early skirmishing potential, to where Gnar wants the isolated laning phase. If jungles get involved, typically it is more favored towards that Renekton side.
Of course, I mean, we want to see the Nidalee snowball at the very least, right? You know, get yourself in a position where you take charge of the game and put yourself in a better position than Shadow. I think WeiWei, remember, Lyric, you and I were casting, it was V5's game against someone big like FPX or RNG EDG in 2020 summer, when it was WeiWei on this Nidalee that took over the game and was one of the moments where we went, hey, this jungler's pretty damn good. So we want to get that same vibe from WeiWei going up against Shadow, because Shadow has been hyped up. You and I have been talking him non-stop, but WeiWei starting off this split, it wasn't the 2020 summer split where he took charge of his team. Want to see that happen again.
WeiWei still looked like one of the most, I'd say...
influential?
What's a good word? I don't just want to use good or best, competent, you know? I think he's been one of the shining lights of this roster. There we go.
Yeah.
There's a generic caster phrase for you guys. One of the shining lights for this roster so far. Definitely had a lot of good impact in these mid games once he starts to get past the full clear point and getting some items under his belt. Him and ppgod do still have that good synergy, and they've done what they used to do in V5, where they're very prone to walking in the enemy jungle as a two-man unit, getting down that vision and trying to turn that into an immediate pick, despite the fact that ppgod, I think, has fallen off a bit in recent splits and how he's playing and how he looks in the team. He is still working quite good to enable WeiWei later on.
Yeah, he is. See how that roaming comes through with the Nautilus here. A strong pick for him as well. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. It's BLG versus LGD, and we're at LGD's home arena in Hangzhou. Lyric and I have walked all the way from Xi'an, and look, we're tired, but we'll get through the cast. Don't worry about that, guys. I want to have a quick talk about what we're seeing on our screen. It is Shadow starting on Raptors here. He was spotted out, though, as missing pings come through. I believe it was a deep ward that was taken away. As WeiWei on this bottom side, meanwhile, is going to be going towards Krugs and heading towards the top side. So, Lyric, different jungle starts here that'll have different intentions to path away.
Also interesting that we see WeiWei taking the electrocute. Conquer a lot better at, you know, sustained fights, better for dueling early on to our electrocute. Is all just about the burst you bring, hitting a spear, trying to 100-0 a target. As Xiye getting control of this mid lane matchup. I mean, Viego's a champion who, at level 1, is just so strong. I feel like that's the biggest thing that stood out to me about when both Viego and Gwen came out, was how strong their level 1s are and how they're able to get control of waves inside of laning phase with that.
You just saw it there, even the level 2, you know, coming through with the Spectral Maw, and Zeka not getting too much damage down in response. And the thing about this mid lane that, you know, hasn't really been mentioned is there is so much sustain in both sides. Passive healing out of Zeka, but also Xiye proccing the Sovereign's domination. Whenever you get that skill onto a minion, onto a champion, you get so much health back as a return. So, really, we're just going to see them butting heads.
Only on a 5-second cooldown, right? Only on a 5-second cooldown. That's why he's able to put out so much punishment onto Zeka. Just keep whittling him down to where Zeka's fine with this. Zeka shouldn't be able to get solo killed, should do a fine time of catching his wave under turret. He's going to wait till he gets his first back and is able to start making his way towards that stride breaker and have some more health and get resistances to where then he can start looking for these all-ins. And even there, right? You go in, you build up the grit, you get a nice haymaker, you have a shield shade, not able to get the same amount of trade damage onto you. But we're coming straight into a top lane gank. Can BiuBiu find the stun?
This is where WeiWei wanted to be in the Renekton lane, but Garvey just hops away. And now that WeiWei's spotted away, you can see that Shadow on the bottom side. Well, actually, let's focus on the top side, because TP's coming in. BLG wanted to dive this, but it's responded by Xiye. And that means Zeka walks up to the lane. 3 committed to the top side. And Scuttlecrab, as it's being pinged down, should be given over to BLG, while Shadow is just going to go and take the camps while he can.
I mean, yeah, it was 100% going to be BLG's. The TPs come out, your top laner's getting pushed in. It's just easy for all of them to rotate. Xiye was still kind of chunk, so just going to be one crab for one crab overall. Both teams matched in terms of clears. We've seen LGD's bottom lane doing a good job of controlling the lane so far, but this is what you would expect for starts, right? We knew that BLG would try to make that play towards the top side. They weren't able to start up the slice and dice into the stun for a Nidalee Spear to come out. Now we're going to get our recalls coming off. The second wave of jungle camps is going to come up, and we'll fall back into full clears.
Okay, as we go to the full clears, Lyric, what should I be looking out for next? Because we've still got the first dragon up on the map. We know that farm's pretty much even. Shadow's delaying the back so we can get the Krugs here. As trading in the mid lane, just ignore this for the time being, guys. Remember, a lot of sustain we talked about. What should my eyes be looking at here, and what do you see next on the map as a priority for either LGD or BLG?
I wouldn't be surprised if Shadow just goes back towards playing with his bottom lane. We see that aiming and ppgod were able to push her right now and are going to get some vision down, but still, Kramer at a pretty good point right now to combo up with that damage. So start playing towards that bottom side, maybe getting some vision down, and WeiWei's going to make his way up towards that top half of the map anyway.
You see vision being cleared out for the time being anyway. Garvey's TP'd back, but BiuBiu already around the bend. He'll be able to get out as well. I love the new Renekton skin. The Project Renekton skin looks absolutely sick. Almost as good as the Pool Party Renekton, where he whacks you with a Boogie board or a Lifesavers board. He'll be TPing back up to this top lane as well, armed with a longsword and cloth armor, while it is already played steel caps for Garvey. So nullifying yet another lane, but just note that Garvey's ahead in CS up here, doing pretty well, as BiuBiu is going to get the trade, but it is Grasp, so expect the trade back.
Yeah, Garvey, you know, gonna do well in these short trades with the Grasp, kiting out the Renekton. It's what we hit on, right? As Gnar, you like the isolated matchup, but he went in.
He got the
BiuBiu might
stun
go down,
and
though.
ultimate solo kill territory before WeiWei can get in.
I mean, BiuBiu tried to set it up, but took way too much damage in that earlier follow-up. WeiWei should be able to get out just fine here, jumps over the wall, but this is what we hit on with Garvey. Garvey's a player who's shown us certain highlight moments like this, getting solo kills, controlling the wave really well, playing around the enemy jungle's pressure, so good to see Garvey show up in this game as well. And the script flipping a little bit from the last series that LGD had, where LGD were the team falling behind early. This time finding that early game lead. I like the roam coming from Mark as well to guarantee this Scuttle Crab. Still no Rift Herald up just yet, so not going to turn into any more. Mark's going to make his way back down towards the bottom lane. And yeah, Garvey going to have some plated steel caps on top of the pickaxe.
And I guess the way I see it is that if the Renekton lane doesn't get ahead, or if WeiWei's not able to influence the lane that we know as a Nidalee has great pairing, then what happens from this point on? What are LGD able to stop? And do BLG just get halted and have to wait for, I guess, aiming to get a couple of items, or Zeka to find and engage? Like, does this hurt you a lot?
Oh, definitely, right. BLG's comp not too high in terms of DPS. It does have a lot of burst if it can find its way into Kramer or something along those lines, but still, you're going to have Garvey standing in front of you, Mark right in front of you. You can drop an equalizer to either keep them at arm's length, or if they know you're coming into you, right, it gives you a very telegraphed angle to get all that damage down. And then aiming and WeiWei should be left in pretty awkward positions to deal with Xiye. So for BLG, we want to see them start getting ahead. They did draft this Renekton. They picked up the Sett thinking they'd be able to guarantee lane prio, but the fact that Xiye did bring out the Viego into this matchup means that no, they weren't able to. He's done a pretty good job of controlling mid this whole time.
As Garvey ults the top side, we fling the camera back up once again. BiuBiu should be able to cull the meek here to get some of his health back, and he'll do that within the minion wave. WeiWei spot out in the ward as well, so Garvey kind of backs away after ulting. Ward here onto the Shelly pit too, so WeiWei, as he's doing this, full information over to LGD, but with Xiye about half health, looks like they won't contest for now. Just leave that one and potentially just trade Dragon for Rift Herald.
Xiye hovering around that side for now. You even, if you look at your map, Garvey as well is kind of hovering down, so doing a nice job of trading. It doesn't look like either of them are going to start to move over or try to force WeiWei off. They are just going to elect into the Dragon trade that you talked about, but ppgod might have found his way towards the mid lane.
Yeah, he's roaming up, but Xiye's backing all
Xiye
the way
respects it.
back.
Xiye, a man of much respect. Hysterics it is at least going to open up for a plate in the bot side for Kramer and Mark, so a bit of gold into their pocket, picking up a neutral objective on bot side. And you look at BLG's vision, you can still tell it's all about playing towards this top half of the map, still trying about setting up the combo of either Nidalee with Sett or Nidalee with Renekton. And yeah, aiming and ppgod just going to be left on an island to their own devices, where they've done fine so far, right? This is what you would usually expect of when you have tank support versus tank support is, hey, you know, not too much kill threat. You can both farm safely if you do choose. The thing is, though, we typically do have a lot of skill checking between our supports, a lot of engages going back and forth in 2v2 kills, but not between Kramer, Mark, and aiming and ppgod.
No, definitely not. No, I think as well, you mentioned in pick and ban that our bottom lane meta's changed quite a bit. Maybe not in picks like Kaisa, but still definitely about the 2v2s, how the meta was shaping up. We were seeing a hell of a lot of Tristana at MSI and even patches before. But now we're a bit more stable. Poking comes through from the Varus lanes. Ezreal lanes are in fashion now as well. And even with the Kaisa 2v2, nullified by something like the Leona you mentioned. So Bottom lane stable as ever. Mid lane pretty much the same here at this point, with both cancelling each other out, sustaining over each other. Support's now trying to roam and get something done, but I like how Mark and ppgod running into each other. They know what's up, and it's just vision for vision at this point, trying to make sure they keep an eye on where WeiWei's going, and likewise for BLG, knowing where Shadow's going to appear.
And they're hoping they would be able to force a pick, right? Because Xiye is the one with lane prio. He's able to move first. Kramer pushed down in the bot lane. So if they can engage on the ppgod, he should be dead.
Equalizer solar flare. I've seen this so many times before. Chains corruption over the wall. Here comes the poke from Kramer. 3 ultis, but a kill. You press W.
Overall, LGD using a window to find something. Now they're going to be able to just default back to their jungles, start clearing up. Kramer didn't lose anything out on the bottom side of the map as well. So if Mark wants to make his way back down towards bot, they could even potentially try and zone him off some waves in the XP. But instead, it looks like Mark wants to help Xiye find that reset. But WeiWei's here to match. WeiWei still does have Herald.
And so you have to just wait for the wave to come in. TP for both these mid laners, though, and you're right to bring up Herald, because that's timing out in about 40, 50 seconds. So WeiWei on the clock here. Does it go to Zeka's lane? Does it go bottom lane? Lyric, what are your thoughts, and where do you want to put this?
This one is kind of rough, right? Because usually you can use like a few metrics to figure out where, right? Does the enemy have, do you already have a turret chunked down? You can try and get that in one hit. Do you have like an obvious hyper carry you want to funnel gold into? Is there a certain place on the map of like elongating side lanes, or the enemy has a lot of wave clear, so you need to break that one down? But for BLG, you don't really have any lanes faring too well. You don't exactly have a hyper carry. We can see that BLG are going to opt into getting this gold onto aiming. And when you made the point of, hey, your Renekton is completely fallen flat in this matchup, it's probably the best call.
Okay, so at the meantime, I want to know what the response is from Shadow, because Shadow and Xiye are positioning to hover down, but it looks like it will just be the plating gold shared between WeiWei and aiming. No response here from LGD. Just going to go back to farming the waves. So getting some gold back over to BLG, considering they're about 1,500 behind. Now only about 800, with aiming having a good share.
And now for the side of LGD, they're going to start making their way up towards top, with BiuBiu getting so low. Whether a dive came out or not, you can try and force him to lose some CS. You can get deep vision down, because you knew even if WeiWei was up here, he's not going to be able to force you out of this side of the jungle with how low BiuBiu is. And LGD are doing a nice job to punish. So far it's been a lot about LGD taking the small wins where they can.
Yeah. I mean, small wins through the lane, right? Continue to happen up there. I think also through the jungle.
Ooh, can
passes.
BLG find a big win?
That would be massive.
Nope.
Spear connects, but they're actually turning. ppgod forced the flash. TP for the engage, and WeiWei now has to land the javelin toss to scare away Xiye, who heartbreakers, and I think broke the LGD fan base's heart. It didn't do too much with the ulti, so TP burned, but luckily Shadow was there to help push mid-wave.
Yeah, LGD thinking that they could punish BLG's aggressive play on bot side with the fact that they did have TP. Not able to do that, not able to find the Zenith Blade in with Mark. Maybe if they would have committed more aggressively with Mark's flash, they could have, but still, ppgod probably could have been able to get away in my mind with how close they were to their side of the map. They didn't lose any waves, as you highlighted. Shadow was able to push that one out. And there's no TP disadvantage going over, because Zeka has TP, Garvey has TP on the opposite side. So
True.
If action breaks out, similar number of members should be able to follow up, though. If it does happen bot, it'll be almost impossible for BiuBiu to show up to where at least Xiye, a mid laner, can still just walk from mid to bot side river in not that much time.
As BiuBiu gets a stun out, ultimate now available for Garvey. Once again, level 11 Gnar. BiuBiu pays respect after seeing Shadow in this top lane, with Equalizer available once more. And Lyric on the other side, ppgod actually going to find Xiye. He walks into them around the corner, blindsided. Depth charge, pounce one more time. That flash, pretty hard if you're not right up against the wall. So Xiye manages to get away with a slither of health, but almost dies for getting caught out.
I mean, that one was really surprising too, right? Because you know where they are. Shadow's in the opposite side jungle. You're making these plays towards top. Their whole team is practically showing on bot wave. Still elects to take that path and gets heavily punished for it.
Well, we said this coming into it, didn't we? You know, Xiye, he's had some pop-off moments here. He's also had some surprising moments too, you know, within the game. That's why we're talking about Shadow. Xiye was kind of an afterthought. This game hasn't been an amazing start, but then again, it was just a TP play. It was getting caught out from here. Wow. Screw Dragon. Kramer stole blue buff with a Q. That's sick.
Yeah, Kramer. Yeah, Kramer coming in clutch. That's what we know Kramer for, of course. But
Yep.
moving over to the top side of the map, not talking about what we obviously don't know Kramer for, is LGD picking up Rift Herald. Instantly Shadow's going to back, though, so just going to opt into moving towards mid. With the fact that there's no dragon up, though, LGD still haven't taken down any turrets. They shouldn't be able to make the play where you would theoretically be able to rotate your sides towards mid, group up as 5, and drop that Herald. Maybe instead just looking to play more towards your top side, because Xiye should continue to get pushed in mid in the spot lane matchup.
But just look at what's happening with Vision, right? For Zeka as he runs away. After getting that bottom lane turret, it resonated me with when you said LGD don't have that same structural advantage. And because of it, a lot of the vision control had been shifted around. Now, LGD came back on the map, they cleared that away, but BLG this game around have been very obvious as to where they're placing their priority, thanks to that said vision. LGD back on the map though, and Lyric you can see doing the same here with Shadow and Mark. Trying to find Zeka, and there plops the Herald.
Yeah, interesting coming out from them where... So instead of trying to force Prio in mid or just using it in the place where you are already winning in top, they just say, hey, we have a Varus in mid lane, he can clear waves just fine. We're just going to move Mark and Shadow down towards the bottom lane to open this up for Xiye. Looks like it should be able to get a second charge, but that won't mean too much in the grand scheme of things. With no Dragon and no Herald up, we're in one of those transition periods of waiting for the next neutral objective to come onto the map. But since LGD haven't been able to take this top turret, I think as LGD, we want to see them get vision around top side of the map, allow Garvey to keep abusing this matchup, and potentially hope to find some picks and turn that into a top lane turret.
Especially if you can get someone else up there to influence the trade, right? I mean, Shadow... One of the powers of Rumble is that you can opt into the dive without actually necessarily diving. And especially when you have the stopwatch, you do so much DPS as an early game Rumble. So Shadow had been pathing around there a little bit before, but has kind of opted away in the past 5 minutes. Now up here towards Krugs, but so is WeiWei and ppgod, kind of positioning around to look for a pick.
Yeah, they are moving in, but LGD seem conscious that someone can be here. They're not going to fall for this just yet. They are still catching waves in mid, though, so they aren't choosing to walk into this death brush. They're going to start moving over now.
There's a ward on Raptors. But BLG getting turned around on Garvey coming in. He's about to Mega Gnar. Throws him into the middle of the pit. We'll get a stun after the fact as BLG are losing numbers advantage everywhere, Lyric. It was their play being set up, and LGD group up in their own little pairings and managed to pull away some kills.
I mean, the big thing was that LGD knew, right? You can very clearly see that LGD were aware of what was going on. BLG realized that in the end as well. They try to get out. Can they get these other kills?
The flash, Zenith Blade connects, and BiuBiu's caught out as well. He was in the brush. Everyone but Zeka goes down.
LGD coming into this mid-game strong.
Right.
Kramer might go down. Doesn't have flash or heal anymore.
Bench pressing over Kramer right now. There's the 500 gold shutdown. At least Zeka gets something, but he's on the run out. Xiye's got the movement speed. He'll be able to follow him in the end as well. Stride Breaker be damned, as Blast Cone will give him some movement speed. Look at Depth Charge mid. Look at mid. ppgod goes for the engage, but he's completely overstayed. Shadow about to have Equalizer as well. Garvey's rolled back in with a Mega Gnar. Equalizer, Night Harvester into the wall with the rest of your minions. And Xiye re-engages as Nautilus. Guess who this guy is? As reset number 2 on top of Zeka. He gets pulled in. Won't be able to be the Kaisa this time around. BiuBiu in the background. And chaos ensues over this game 1.
And LGD just coming into this mid-game, flexing on BLG. They're finding the picks everywhere, punishing BLG's over-aggression in the mid lane. And then they get a bit over-aggressive from themselves. Xiye does go down in the end. I like the effort, though. It looked really cool when he followed up, and you could see that Garvey was like, wait, what? We're still going? Does secure that kill, but goes down in the end. And this is opening up a pretty massive lead for the side of LGD with 3K.
Yeah, 3,000 gold in the blink of an eye. I mean, the majority of the kills went over to them, but I want to say that for Zeka, the fact that he traded back, the fact that Zeka looks like the one with his head screwed on the tightest this game is quite impressive. Something we talked about as well on this champion like the Sett. He's been able to control tempo. He's been able to control a lot of parts of the game. So for BLG, 5-man stacking down in front of the Dragon, note that Zeka is the most fed member at this point in the game. And will be trying to get that huge showstopper off Lyric. LGD now on the river.
And the thing is, right, Garvey's Mega's about to time out, but I still feel like LGD are in a fine position unless... Oh,
he's
Zeka
into the backline, sets up the engage, face breaker, sandwiches the two between. The Haymaker, though, doesn't kill Kramer. Dodges away from the Javelin toss. ppgod now overextending, and Zeka's engage was great, but not everyone was there. Xiye zoning away as well, and LGD do it once more.
And I'm surprised the members of LGD were able to follow up so quickly on the collapse from Zeka, finding a nice engage onto Kramer, get him chunked down so low, but in the end, it doesn't turn into anything. It turns into more gold for LGD and this Dragon coming out from them. And I mean, you know, we've seen Rumble win so consistently ever since we've come back from MSI, right?
Yep.
Doing pretty well here in the LPL so far. I think having a slightly better win rate than negative, but it feels like Rumble always having a huge impact, and we're going to see Zeka go in. The other members are able to follow up. Kramer barely able to live with Mark and Garvey doing a good job appealing for him. I even like Shadow trying to put out more damage from over the wall as well.
It's such a good catch there, Lyric. I thought, well, BLG are so separated, but the reason why is that equalizer that lines the grass. That was exceptional zone control from the most highlighted member in this new LGD squad. Shadow now 2-1-7, 2 items here with the Sonya's Hourglass. Might not have a bounty on his head, but he definitely deserves it after that last play. A note though, the most fed member is Kramer this game around. Dustblade instead of the Prowler's Claw. He's not about the mobility, he's all about shredding down someone like Aiming, someone like WeiWei before they get a chance.
And Kramer's always done fine in these positions, right? Always high damage, gets through laning just about fine usually. It's just about those positioning mistakes in the late game that we look out for. But going back to your Shadow point, he's been involved in 9 out of the 10 kills.
Oh, Aiming used his ulti. Xiye caught out Heartbreaker there, almost dying to the second skin. And BLG aiming for a pick, Lyric. I mean, at least they're trying to be proactive, right? Trying to get themselves back into a favorable position.
And BLG realized what they have to do, right? They are giving over side wave to Garvey, saying, hey, we're falling too far behind. We actually can't contest in the side wave at this point up against Garvey. So we need to try to get numbers advantage just by giving up tempo somewhere else and forcing a play in mid. Sadly, it didn't turn into anything. As you mentioned, Xiye had ult, and he still did have flash as well, even had things been a little bit worse. So BLG not able to find anything with their play. Garvey getting that free time in the side lane, which he wants.
Yeah, he's still up in CS, 40 CS over the top laner, even the mid laner at this point as well. Garvey's had a really good laning phase, really good game, now with the Dead Man's Plate as well. A lot of mobility added and chase down potential. And just remember that these Gnar ults are going to blow away the side of BLG. You already talked about the compositions, and at this point in the game, Lyric, we know that with Xiye now with a couple more items, able to dish out the damage. Kramer, we already talked about. Hell, even Shadow here on the 2-item Rumble. The Gnar's a fantastic conditional setup tool that, at this point in the game, has Gnar and his evolution every time he's ready for these fights.
That's the thing as well, and he's able to keep up pressure in sides. Never fell to the volatility of trying to get junglers involved in the matchup.
Yep.
You can see now what the plan for LGD is going to be, right? They're going to push out these sides. They're going to rotate first. They're going to control vision. And then when BLG has to run into them, we've seen the equalizers. That Shadow's able to drop. Kramer throwing out damage from the back. And it just feels like one of these two combos is always doing so well in LPL, whether it's the Rumble Sett or the Rumble plus Varus. You know, Rumble Sett obviously being able to get everyone grouped up and then put the damage down, or Kramer and Shadow on Rumble Varus able to dish out damage from such a long range.
Just such easy setup, right? As we see it once again, this time it's the equalizer first. Solar Flare doesn't connect from Mark, and Kramer looks to poke after using Chains of Corruption. Couple of big ultis down from LGD, but now that Garvey's Mega Gnar, it's still the threat of getting engaged on. It's still knowing that LGD are about 5,000 gold ahead of you.
And the thing is, LGD don't lose anything for this play because Dragon's not up for 1 minute and 15 seconds. Zeka, though, going in with the flash stride breaker, but not able to find it.
Setting it up on Mark. Here's the burst. Killer instinct from aiming. Mark should die here, but the shielding comes through. TP on the backside. That's Garvey. No Mega Gnar, but Xiye's alongside him. 5 versus 2 if they can get over the wall. Boomerang Blade slows both BiuBiu and WeiWei as Zeka curb stomps him down. Xiye still escapes, so thanks to the Heartbreaker. And now we're chasing. Javelin toss dodged away from, and Xiye gets out, and ppgod. No, he's left behind. 5 versus 4 on the Rift Lyric, and Garvey about to go mega. He gets face break it in. Meanwhile, the fight up here is WeiWei caught out. LGD once again picking BLG apart.
And this will be the Baron for the side of LGD. It almost looked good for BLG. They find the pick onto Mark, but then we see that LGD start channeling TPs, and BLG realize, hey, we can't stand in this area. We're going to get collapsed off from 2 sides. They have to back off. And then in the scatter, LGD are able to just start picking them apart. And yeah, their gold lead growing exponentially up to 5k now. With the fact that they have 2 winning side laners as well, they're going to be able to push this Baron so far.
I'm just surprised by LGD, not only this split, but this game. They've had their head on their shoulders. It's something I said that Zeka felt like the only person who was at points in this game for BLG. But LGD now picking up the Baron, 6k gold lead. Sure, they'll lose the Dragon, but who gives a diddly donker? Because at this point in the game, with Baron, with the Gnar and Viego, you have super strong side lanes that can add so much pressure to push into BLG's base.
And now what you expect BLG to do in response once LGD have the recalls come out and get their new lane assignment is that, you know, they're going to try to match initially, not let any turrets go down, but then it's about, hey, where do we attack with our engage? Where do we let them be weak? Especially with the fact that Garvey doesn't have TP, so typically you're going to try to attack LGD wherever Garvey isn't pushing, find a few kills, reset, stop the pressure coming in from Garvey after that point, and give yourself some breathing room.
Exactly what you need. I mean, look, Kramer pushing in the mid wave for now. Top wave, crashing into the next minion wave. Xiye dealing with bot. Lyric, we got a lot to talk about here, and I think it's how LGD close out this game. Face breaker, rather it is the showstopper, but Zeka getting bursted down. Kramer's here. He sends a hail of arrows in his wake as ppgod and BiuBiu need that blast cone, but they've brought a scary man with a huge freaking sword with them. Javelin toss layers through. LGD dodge the damage, but BLG lose their mid laner. They're just lucky that nothing else is up, but remember, Lyric, LGD have Baron.
Hysterics. Do you hear that?
What is it?
That is Rumble in choke points. That is forcing into Rumble in choke points. That is exactly what we just heard and saw. Equalizer goes down, Sett instantly dies, no one else can follow up. Fighting against Rumble in choke points.
Yeah, probably not ideal, right? Rumble,
well,
I think
you know, it doesn't help when the Rumble's also 8k gold up, you know, like the team as a whole, so there's that as well.
I mean, even like Viego, when he's got a couple of items like he does now too, right? It's still a similar kind of impact. Solar Flare's there. Do you want me to go on? Chains of Corruption. It feels like all of the ultimates that come through for this team are going to work well in a choke as ppgod now has to burn. Which way is he going? Back to the base, that's for sure. No gray screen for now, but there you go. Poke comes down and immediately BLG scatter to the wind. Bottom lane turret, bottom lane inhibitor drops. LGD gonna get mid as well. BiuBiu, you're not a scary croc. You're literally like one of those 2-year-old crocodiles that you pull out of the pond and you start patting. You think it's cute now. The Xiye gets dunked back. Zeka trying to win the game for BLG. Haymaker does great damage. Solar Flare there though. And this is the problem. You've once again channeled into a choke. It's a good effort, but Xiye's so fed now as well. He'll look for the final piece of damage against aiming. And while he won't get it, the rest of BLG have fallen. WeiWei against the wall. And LGD ready to bring game 1 home.
And in the end, at this point, LGD are just too far ahead. It looked like it could have worked. Zeka goes in aiming with a nice follow-up, but they don't have the damage to take the members of LGD down. And LGD taking this win confidently.
Confidently, keyword, under 30 minutes is exactly that. Garvey survives in the end. Great Gnar game for him, while the rest of LGD followed suit. This team is a surprise in summer, Lyric, and I love surprises.
And it's kind of funny, right? Because we gotta be fair. We gotta be honest. We gotta admit our mistakes, as some people would say. I think all of us had BLG either in playoffs or like just outside of playoffs, right? Like maybe some of us had them like 11th or 12th, but I think a few of us definitely had them at 9th or 10th. I know I definitely had them in at 10th on my pre-split power ranking, to where I had LGD incredibly low. Can't remember where it was, 12th through 15th, somewhere around there. But LGD are another team that's exciting to watch this split. So many of our previous splits bottom teams made roster adjustments, have come in, have put up really close games against a lot of teams, have been taking wins like LGD did in their last series. And they're gonna make the race for playoffs later on in the split a lot more competitive. But it's just cool to see that the baseline of a lot of these teams is so strong.
Yeah.
Shadow once again being involved in almost everything this team did. Garvey, once he did get a lead, and the fact that BLG weren't able to find those opportunities to get onto him in the isolated laning phase, did great to start abusing that pressure and really making this game hard for BLG to play.
And BiuBiu on a power pick that gets banned, that has 100% pick presence, or pick ban presence in the LPL, make it look absolutely useless, right? The Renekton didn't get to play the game, and Garvey, having that kind of performance is a sign of greatness for LGD. We talked heavily about the players that we focus on. Shadow, Xiye. Bottom lane can have angles and issues at times. Garvey as well can sometimes have really hype plays, but then also kind of flops. So it is another great avenue for LGD to look through. And I think Garvey on this Gnar, he's just come into this week as a very different top laner.
Garvey is just a player who a lot of us looked at for a long time as a player who's had a lot of potential. And every time LGD has started a split and he was on the roster, we thought, okay, he's going to start. He's going to be the top laner. I remember when they brought in Longxing. I think he played the very first series. They lost. Sad for him, Longxing gets brought in because, Longxing can fulfill like the role of weak side top laner very well. But Garvey, for a long time, has shown that he has this like carry force in him where he is able to take over games. So glad to see Garvey pop off in this game. 20,000 damage, most damage on the team. Though, again, contextualizing it, he is just playing Gnar against Renekton, hitting him the whole time, got massively ahead. But still, I think this amount of damage on a Gnar is absolutely ridiculous.
It is. It
clear
really
MVP,
is.
Hysterics? Is he clear MVP?
Well, I think so. I mean, look, Shadow also deserves it, right? We come back to what we know and love so far, which is Shadow's Rumble is always willing to pull the trigger alongside Mark. That support and jungle duo is a lot of fun to talk about, Lyric. We will continue the conversation, though, after this short break to see if LGD can take it all the way or if BLG